Mega Man X has always been one of my favorite Super Nintendo games, and it was also just one of my favorite games growing up. This game had such a big impact on me that I used to draw comics of Mega Man X, and I'd write my own stories about him. And I don't know, I just have such great feelings and nostalgia whenever I think about this game. This game is also pretty highly critically acclaimed, so other people think it's good too. So I figured that this would be a good game to analyze and learn from. I'm going to do a series of videos just kind of talking about different parts of the game. This first one is going to be about game mechanics. The first thing that we're going to talk about is Mega Man's general controls and abilities. So obviously he can run, jump, and shoot. And you can only shoot straight, so you can't shoot up or at an angle. The only way to shoot in different directions is to use special weapons, which I'll talk about later, because each weapon is a bit different. So I think that shooting in only one direction is a good choice because it makes the special weapons a lot more useful. If your regular weapon could shoot in all different directions, then you'd probably just use that all the time because it would be so good, especially if you could charge up and shoot in different directions. Imagine how different that would make the game. So let's talk about the charge shot. If you hold down the button, Mega Man will start charging his gun. If you let go of it right away, he shoots like a little green blast. And this has the strength of 2 normal shots. But if you hold it a bit longer, he'll shoot like a bigger bluish blast that takes the amount of 3 normal shots. An advantage of the big blue charge shot is that it goes through enemies that it destroys. So if there's a lot of weak enemies in front of you, you can charge up your gun, clear them all out with one shot. It's kind of good to always be charging your gun. And it's not that annoying because of the way the buttons are laid out. You press the B button to jump, and you can press the Y button to shoot. And you can easily just hold down the Y button to charge, and you can just kind of press the B button with the bottom of your thumb. In some games that have charging, the buttons are laid out in a more annoying way. So I think it works really well in this game. And then once you collect the X-Buster upgrade, you shoot an even bigger charge shot that has a bunch of little pink particle thingies. And so this shot takes up a lot more space. So you have a better chance of hitting the enemy because the blast is so big. And it also even has this little thing that shoots out behind you. So it'll even very briefly kill an enemy that's behind you. I don't think they did that great of a job with the 3rd level of the Mega Buster because if you shoot a boss with it, it's not any better than the blue charge shot. So they fixed that in the later games, but the 3rd level charge shot is only really useful for normal enemies that you can shoot repeatedly. It doesn't work well on enemies that you can only shoot once and then you have to wait. Bosses, you can't just keep shooting them. You have to wait a bit before you can shoot them because they flash. So one of the big things that they added in this game compared to Mega Man is the dash. And you get the dash after you get the boot upgrade. And this this changes everything. You can move way faster. The game just feels like a different game once you get it. In the later Mega Man X games, you start with the dash because I think they realized that people were bored until they got it because they walk so slow. So yeah, once you get the dash, you can just kind of fly through levels. If you jump while you're dashing, then your entire jump is going to be faster. You can move faster even if you change directions, which I think is pretty cool. Another really nice detail that they added related to the dash is that the first bullet you shoot during a dash does twice as much damage as the others. And this only works for normal X-Buster shots. So that adds a bit of strategy, especially when you're fighting a boss, because you can quickly do a dash and shoot them, and then you're going to take 2 hit points off of them instead of just 1. So it makes the boss fights a lot easier, especially when you're fighting Storm Eagle, because he does this thing where he kind of blows you. And if you're dashing while you're shooting him right there, you do twice as much damage. Another nice detail that they added is that normally when you shoot an enemy that can't be killed, your bullets bounce off at a diagonal angle, But if you're dashing, your first bullet bounces off at an arc, and I think that's to let you know that this bullet is stronger than the others. I really like that they took the time to put in small details like that. I do have one problem with the dash. By default, it's set to the A button, and I think this was kind of a poor choice because it's kind of hard to press A and B at the same time, and then you can't really shoot at the same time. So I think it would have been better if they set dash to the R button, because it's easy to press R and B and Y at the same time. So when I play this game, I always change the controls. They do let you change your controls, so I mean, you can fix it yourself, but I think they should have just done that from the beginning. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because another way to do the dash is to double tap the control pad. I think it's a good idea, but the problem is that sometimes you're kind of like moving frantically trying to dodge stuff, and then you accidentally dash when you didn't want to, and it just kind of might mess you up a little bit. So I would have preferred that they just set the dash to the R button and then took out the double tap, or they could have made the double tap an option. I guess that could have been even better. Another big fundamental thing to Mega Man's movement is the wall slide and jump. So like if you touch a wall when you're in the air, Mega Man starts sliding down the wall, and you can press the jump button to kind of keep jumping up it. I think this is a pretty cool feature. It adds a lot of new stuff to the game, and they didn't just make it a simple climb. You don't just like touch the wall and then you can climb up. You actually have to jump up, and you're going to keep sliding down. So that makes it a little bit more unique. If you press the dash button at the same time as the jump button when you're on the wall, then you're going to do a quicker jump, which I think is a nice touch. But one way that I think this could be improved is if they were to let you just hold down the dash button, and then if you press the jump button, you would do the faster jump. Again, I think they didn't do this because they assigned the dash button to A, but if they assign it to R, then you could have just held R when you're on the wall, and you could press jump, and you would just do the quicker jump. So it'd be nice if they added that. It's not a huge deal, but yeah, it just requires you to press two buttons at the same time when I don't think it always would have been necessary. So I think this wall jump thing works pretty well most of the time, but there are some of the levels in the game require the wall jump, and they're probably the most frustrating parts of the game. I remember a lot of times in the more vertical levels, like you're just trying to climb up the walls, and there's just all these enemies. Every time you get hit, you kind of fall, and it's just annoying because you can't shoot up. I don't really have any perfect solution for how they could fix that. Yeah, every time you take damage, you kind of bounce back a little bit, just like it was in Mega Man, and then you're temporarily invulnerable. I don't think it's as annoying in this game as it was in Mega Man, just because you're a bit more mobile in this game. But it still has a thing where, like, if you're jumping and then some enemy hits you in the air, you could still fall in the pit. But I don't really mind it in this game, just because, yeah, I mean, you can move a lot faster. You're only knocked back for like a few seconds, and then you can kind of readjust yourself in the air. And you're not really going to fall in a pit unless there's no walls near you, because remember, you can jump off the walls. So let's talk about health. So in this game, you have a health bar. When you first start out the game and you look at your health, you feel really weak. So you're like, I barely can take any damage. But then by the time you end the game, you have tons of health. So I think that works really well. The health bar is divided up into little segments. Each time you get hit, it takes a different amount of damage depending on what hit you. And you can also collect an armor upgrade that makes you take 50% less damage. And you can collect health by killing enemies, or you can just find it lying around in the level. I guess you can kind of cheat the system because enemies keep reappearing when you go off screen, so you can just keep fighting enemies to regain your health. But I don't know, it's a Super Nintendo game, so I think it works pretty well. I never really had a problem with that. And to upgrade your health, you collect heart tanks, and there's one on each level. And these things are really useful, and it's fun to find them. because they're so helpful. Well, that's it for this video. We'll talk more about game mechanics in part 2.